Good evening and welcome back to the Rory Talks Football channel and a daily live stream. We are back for another. Lots to talk about today. Obviously, Ethan Nwaneri's a big talking point. Declan Rice continues to be a talking point. We'll talk about some other clubs and the business that they're doing as well. But I hope you've all had a very good day. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe as always. The subscribers are flowing at the moment. And yeah, we will get into the day. And the title is just Arsenal feels like a different football club. Everything is coming up Millhouse. It really is. It's blowing me away. It is blowing me away the way our club is just nailing absolutely everything right now. Aaron Bannister says, Rory, go bold, please. I won the bet. I won the bet. No boldness for me. I was panicking. I can't lie, I was panicking. At first, when I made the tweet, obviously, I was very, very confident. However, as time went on, I did start losing confidence in that. But we're back. The hair is staying. I hope you're all well. Ben, good to see you. Liam, Ryan, Ross, good to see you all as well. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, Aaron. But yeah, look, I want it does just feel like a different football club right now. Everything we're doing is working right. Like, literally everything. We haven't had a single thing so far this summer that has gone wrong. Whether it's, Saliba and Martinelli and Saka all signing new contracts. Ethan Nwaneri today committing his future to the club, which is massive in itself. The signings we're making, even down to like Rory and Timber, who I genuinely didn't think we could ever sign. It's just all going perfectly. And I don't want to speak too soon. Like, touch wood, it does carry on this way. But it just feels like a new era at Arsenal Football Club right now. And I am all here for it. I am all here for it. Shame some people can't keep their shit together on social media. What a difference a day makes. I know. You wouldn't need to shave your head. The stress of losing Rice would have lost your hair by the chest. Honestly, I'm going grey. Matt says, do you think our targets would be different if we had won the league? That is an interesting question. Would our targets have been different if we had won the league? I think, so we'd have earned more money, right? And so maybe, for example, I think Declan Rice was always the number one target. It sounds like Rory and Timber was always the defensive target. I think what you might have seen would be that the next signing we make, let's say it's Romeo Lavia, I think you'd have seen that potentially be Caicedo. I think if we'd won the league, Rice and Caicedo would have been a genuine possibility. But that's the only real difference. I think Arteta was clear coming into the window who he wanted to sign. I really do think that. So I don't think it would have been wildly different, especially for the first sort of 2 or 3 signings anyway. Mustafa says, what is the fee for Timber? So it's around 45 million euros, so about 40 million pounds. Which is unbelievably good value. I thought it would... the reason I didn't think we'd get him was because I thought it was going to be about 60 million. And I just didn't think we'd spend that on a defender this summer. So the fact we've done it is absolutely massive. Welcome to the people watching on TikTok. If you want to watch on YouTube, get involved in the chat, ask some questions. You can do so through the link in my bio, but I appreciate you watching and following on TikTok as well. Duckett's playing decent. Time for Root to rack the runs up. Liam's talking about the cricket. Unfortunately, I have to turn the cricket off to do the live stream. But England battling well in the cricket today. I did see Root just got very lucky. He was caught behind, and it was a no ball. But enough of the cricket, because I know some people don't like it. Is Chouameni a possibility or Lavia? Chouameni, I mentioned this in the video I uploaded a couple of hours ago. There was a rumour going around that Chouameni could sign for Arsenal. It came from transfers.com, which is about as quality a source as Jonathan Morley. And no offence to Jonathan Morley, it's not going to happen. It makes absolutely no sense. Real Madrid bought him last summer for 100 million euros. They're not going to take a loss on him. So you'd be looking at 100 million euros if we wanted to sell him. It also doesn't make sense that we would look at Caicedo and then Lavia and then Chouameni. You wouldn't look at an 80 million pound player, then a 40 million pound player, and then a 90 million pound player. It's just not. It's just a nonsense rumour. The only reason that rumour even exists is because Arsenal have looked at Chouameni in the past, and Real Madrid are likely to sell one of Camavinga, Tchouaméni, and Fede Valverde. And I think it's going to be Fede Valverde. It sounds like Liverpool are quite advanced in that. So, yeah, the Tchouaméni thing's nonsense. Tickets on sale tomorrow. Tickets for what, Aaron? For the Community Shield? If that's true, I need to make sure I'm in on that. Who do you think Arsenal will sign next? If Arsenal are going to sell Partey, Eddie and Balogun, then maybe we need 2 signings, but what do you think? I don't think we are selling Partey now. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen. I do think we'll sell one of or both of Eddie and Balogun. And I think what we actually end up doing in that situation is then buying someone like Arda Güler or Xavi Simons. And I don't think we go and buy an out-and-out striker this summer. Because you've still got, even without Eddie and without Balogun, you've still got Jesus, Trossard and Havertz that can all play that centre-forward role. So, I don't know. I don't see us buying an out-and-out striker. Do you think AFTV get unfairly treated on TikTok mainly because, in my opinion, they can say the most level-headed comment ever and they still get called delusional? Yeah, they do. It's, look, AFTV obviously have a history that I consider myself fortunate, right, that I didn't start making content until the beginning of last season. I don't know what my content would have been like when we were in the absolute mud, because I know what I was like. Obviously, I wasn't making content, but I know what I was like in real life when we were in the mud, and I hated it. And I think my content would have been similar, not similar, but it would have been miserable. And look, yeah, of course, they've said delusional things in the past, and people that are no longer on AFTV used to say delusional things, but I do think to an extent they're still tarred with that brush of the past, and they should be given a fair chance moving forwards, but apologies for the siren. It's just one of those things. Duckett's out for 98. That's unfortunate. Mason Mount has we've just seen the Ornstein exclusive. Mason Mount to Manchester United, £60 million. So £55 million fee with $5 million in add-ons. Is that a good signing? Let me know in the chat. Do you think that is a good signing for Manchester United? For Manchester United. So £60 million package. So we're paying $65 million for Havertz, but ours breaks down as $50 million up front and 15 in add-ons. Whereas Man United's for Mount is $55 million up front and only $5 million in add-ons. So they're paying a larger flat fee than we are for Mount than we have for Havertz. And Mount only had a year left on his contract as well. Do you think it's a good deal? Let me know. I think Mason Mount is a good player. I think if Arsenal had signed Mason Mount, I'd have been quite happy with it. But the one thing I don't really understand for Man United is that I don't think that's a position they really needed to improve as urgently as they have other positions. I think their midfield, you look at the fact that realistically his best position is probably the role that Bruno Fernandes plays. Does he displace Bruno Fernandes? Probably not. And Bruno Fernandes is literally never injured. I just feel like there are positions that they desperately needed and need to upgrade. And they're expensive positions to upgrade. They need a striker. They have to sign a striker. Strikers typically are more expensive. They need a goalkeeper. They're probably going to get Onana. I think that'd be a good signing. But I just feel like it's an interesting signing to be their first one and the one that seemingly was the highest priority. I do think he'll play well for them. I think he might even play the Eriksen role occasionally and play a bit deeper. But again, I don't know if that's really where he's best. Man United's number one goalkeeper from tomorrow is Tom Heaton. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're going to sign Onana, I'm pretty sure. Which I do think is a good signing. But I don't know. I don't know how their transfer window's going. And I'm pretty sure they don't have a lot of money to spend either, regardless of the takeover. So it's an interesting one for them. And it's an interesting one for Chelsea. Because I think Chelsea getting that much money for Mason Mount is very good for them. Naturally, it's very good for them. But is it kind of the soul of Chelsea is kind of just disappearing? They've just lost Loftus-Cheek to Milan. They've now lost Mason Mount. They've got new owners, new manager, half of the team that started their first game even of last season doesn't exist. There's only going to be 3 players from the entire squad that won the Champions League 2 years ago that are still going to be there. And I just feel like it's very difficult to follow that as a club. Like, for us to follow, imagine this team that we've got now just completely disintegrated over the next 2 years. It's like, what are you actually supporting at that point? Chelsea sold their soul in 2003. I don't disagree, but even since 2003, they still had sustained periods where there were, core members of that team that wouldn't move. Lampard, Terry. They just don't seem to have that anymore. Who do you think will be our most important bench player next season? That's coming from Ross Longman. Our most important bench player next season. Well, it depends, right? Because it could be Thomas Partey. It could be Thomas Partey, or it could be Yuri and Timber. Because both of those are going to offer us very different tactical setups, right? Because I think consistently what you'll see next season is, if Partey stays, is either Partey and Rice as the midfield 2, or Rice and Havertz, depending on who we're against. If we're playing against teams that we should dominate, and that the difficulty will be breaking them down, I think you'll see a lot of Rice and Havertz. If we're playing against good teams with good midfields that can press well, I think you'll see more of Partey and Rice. Low-key Tomiyasu. It's interesting with Tomiyasu, because I do think Tomiyasu is a really important player to have in the squad, just because of his versatility and the fact that he can play in every position across the back line. But I'd also argue that going into next season, he's probably going to be our worst defender. And that's no disrespect to Thomas Partey. It shows how far, and someone commented this on a video earlier, it shows how far we have come, that Tomiyasu, who was pretty much a guaranteed start of the season before last, is arguably going to be our worst defender. And arguably, he'd be the 3rd choice player in every one of, you're at right back, I would argue Ben White and Timber start ahead of him. At right centre back, I would argue Saliba and Timber start ahead of him. At left centre back, I'd argue Gabriel and Kivior start ahead of him. And at left back, I'd argue Zinchenko and Kieran Tierney start ahead of him. So it's one of those. He's crucial for if we get a serious injury crisis at the back. But it's just good. It's just a good player to have, isn't it? It's a good player to have. Have we stopped going for Cancelo? Yeah, I think so. I've not really heard anything on Cancelo in a while now. I even said it at the time with Cancelo. Cancelo felt like a journalist putting 2 and 2 together sort of thing. It was another, well, he's ex-City, he's going to leave City, Arteta did well with him. It writes itself as a story, and I think that's why it got picked up. I don't think it was ever something that would genuinely have happened. And according to Fabrizio today, I don't know if it's just centre-backs or defenders in general, but according to Fabrizio today, Timber's really the only defender that we're going for this summer. Can you see us getting a 5th signing if we sign Lavia and Timber on top of the 2 we've already got? Yeah. So I was saying yesterday, I think it will be someone like Xavi Simons or Arda Güler, a player like that, someone that's not massively expensive, won't go into the first team, will be given plenty of time to learn and adapt. Almost like a cheaper version of what Fabio Vieira was last season, effectively. So I do think that'll happen. How many goals and assists do you think Havertz will get? I genuinely think Havertz could be capable of getting 10 plus goals and assists, as in 10 goals and 10 assists plus. If you think Xhaka finished on 7 and 7, Havertz is capable of finishing on 10 and 10. But it depends how many games he plays, right? It depends how many games we start with Partey and Rice instead of Rice and Havertz. Where's Cancelo going? Haven't heard a thing. I'm not sure. It's interesting because it definitely sounds like he is going. How much do you think Xavi Simons would go for? There's rumours that it's like under 15 million. It really could be quite cheap. Marquinhos in the squad or another loan? I think Marquinhos will go on another loan. And truthfully, I'm not sure we'll ever see Marquinhos break into the first team, which is harsh, but he didn't stand out for Norwich on his loan last season. Obviously, you've got to give him time. But I just think it's going to be difficult. For any youngster like that, it's going to be difficult to break into our first team. You know, even someone like Ethan Nwaneri, it's fantastic that we've kept him and managed to keep him and really managed to fight off interest from City and Chelsea. Like, that is huge. But again, he's got to be a serious player if he's going to end up breaking into the Arsenal team. Now, the good thing, of course, when it comes to finances and everything, is that you could end up selling Nwaneri for 30 or 40 million without him really ever even breaking into the team. Impressive how Martinelli's done it. It is impressive how Martinelli's done it, but Martinelli benefited from the time that he arrived. If Martinelli arrived now, with how raw he was, and we had another Martinelli in the team at left wing, he'd struggle, right? It was only because we just didn't have a squad that, you know, him and Saka massively benefited from that at the time. Marquinhos will be a player we sign for 3 million and sell for a profit, vital part of the club plan. Yeah, 100%. And we are into that realm now. And this is the thing. We are genuinely operating as a good club again. And for all the things you could say about Man City, right? Yes, they've spent and broken whatever rules. All of that is kind of irrelevant in terms of the fact that they've spent that money well and they operate as a very, very good club. Man United are the proof. You can spend the same amount as Man City and win nothing or a Carabao Cup off the back of it. You have to be able to spend the money and operate as a quality club. Man City do that, and Arsenal are beginning to get into an era, it feels like, of doing the same. And you have to do that if we're going to compete for a sustained period of time. This can't just be a flash in the pan under Arteta. This has to be something that we can do for the next decade and beyond. And getting all of the right things and the right processes in place to do that is super important. Pau Torres to Villa, what signing that is for them. Yeah, look, I mean, if you think about it, last summer and even coming into this summer, and we spoke about it in January as well, Pau Torres was a potential Arsenal signing, a potential Man United signing. Villa have done very well to get him. Very well. And I think, look, their window so far, I can see Villa comfortably competing for Europa League next season. I really can. Even compared to, like, you know, Spurs. I know they signed Maddison yesterday. I don't think they're having a great transfer window. And I think there's a lot of work they need to do. Nothing on Diaby? No. You said that quite a few times. There's nothing on Diaby. And I don't think Diaby will happen either. I really hope Arteta never leaves, stay for 20 years like Wenger. Truthfully, I don't think he will. I don't think he'll stay as long as Wenger. I mean, in general, I don't think any manager will ever stay as long as Wenger in the current era. But I think he'll complete the project at Arsenal, and it wouldn't surprise me if he then went to Barcelona, which is sad. But I think he alluded to it in that Marca interview the other day that, you know, it's on his mind to go back to Barcelona at some point. We've just got to make sure that the club is in a place that when Arteta leaves, another top manager can come in and we continue the cycle. And that's not easy to do. You know, I think everyone is praying for the day that Pep Guardiola leaves Man City, because it gives you at least a season where, in theory, you should be able to really have a go at them. If Arteta leaves, who replaces him? Honestly, don't know. Spurs are winning the league in July. Spurs are winning the league. December, Enoch out. Yeah, exactly. If we get Xavi Simons, where do you think he'll play, in the midfield or on the wing? I think both. I think Xavi Simons is someone that you'd see come on for Ødegaard or Saka, or play in a 10 if we ever start using a 10. Also, does Kivior work in the 2 in a 3-2-4-1? No, I think in the 3-2-4-1 you generally see Timber being the right back that inverts and joins Rice or whoever as the 2. Like Kivior probably could do it. He played CDM a few times for Spezia, but I don't think we'd see it very often, truthfully. Arteta leaves, his oldest son comes in to replace him. He's got a bit of time. I mean, his oldest son could play for us at some point. I think Mertesacker will become coach after Arteta, possibly. Cesc Fabregas is getting into coaching. Obviously, Jack Wilshere's doing coaching. It wouldn't surprise me if another ex-player comes and joins, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's a player that is learning currently from Mikel Arteta either. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Anyway, this is going to be a slightly shorter stream than normal. I've got to jump off at 5:30 because I'm going to some show tonight. But, of course, it's time for Guess the Gooner, the game where I give you an ex or current Arsenal player's career path without the Arsenal part in it. You have to guess who that player is. First person to get it correct in the YouTube chat wins all of the honour. I haven't seen VV Vlad in the chat today. He did the double. He did the back-to-back yesterday. But I haven't seen him in the chat today, so it's up for grabs for someone else. If you're watching on TikTok and you want to get involved, the YouTube channel is linked in my bio. Jump over and get involved. Subscribe whilst you're there as well. That massively helps me out. But it is time for Guess the Gooner. Let me bring it up on here. Now, I think this is, I don't know, maybe a slightly difficult one, maybe not. We will see. But today's Guess the Gooner started their career at Osasuna. They went on loan to Cartagonova. They then went on a free to Sabadell. Then a free to Celta Vigo. They went on loan to Eibar and Huelva and Albacete. And then they went to on loan to West Ham. And then they went to Watford. Who is it? Osasuna, Cartagonova, Sabadell, Celta Vigo, Huelva, Eibar, Albacete, West Ham, Watford. Who is it? I still haven't seen it. It's not Nacho Monreal. It's not Santi Cazorla. It's not Lucas Perez. Not Denis Suarez. Ross Lawman's done it. He's back. Ross Lawman is back on top. He has indeed got it. It was Manuel Almunia. Anu Brata came second. And that was it, really. There were not many shouts for it. But Ross Lawman gets it with Manuel Almunia. I do think that was a tricky one. Massive credit to Ross Lawman for getting it correct. Fair play to him. I mean, to be fair, I didn't realise how much he'd moved around Spain before he joined Arsenal. Hamza says who? Manuel Almunia. Came on in the Champions League final. What a player. Genuinely, right? Some people might be too young to remember this, but there was a period of time where Manuel Almunia had, I think he'd basically been in England for long enough that he could change citizenship to England because he'd never played for the Spanish national team. And there were genuine conversations at one point that Almunia could switch allegiances to England and play for the England national team, which really shows how diabolical the England goalkeeping situation was at the time, because I genuinely remember that being a conversation. And if Almunia had ever been England's number one, I mean, that would have been abysmal. Yeah, Almunia saves. D-Day! That is his most iconic moment. Which, I mean, that says it all, right? Almunia's most iconic moment is the Deeney moment, despite the fact that he was at Arsenal for 7 years. But there you go. Anyway, on to the Guess the Non-Gooner. This is a player that has never played for Arsenal. Not quite as much credit goes to this one because it's not an Arsenal player. However, I will give you their full career path. So this player, again, not a Gooner or ex-Gooner, started his career at SR Saint-Dié. He then went to FC Metz. He then went to Genk. He then went to Napoli. He then went to Chelsea. He then went to Al Hilal. So Saint-Dié, Metz, Genk, Napoli, Chelsea, Al Hilal. Who is it? It is not Kevin De Bruyne. It is not Kevin De Bruyne. It's not N'Golo Kante. Devin has got it. Devin has got it. Lots of people on TikTok have got it. Fair play to you. It is indeed one Kalidou Koulibaly. And on my screen, there it is. It was Devin that came first. SS9 came second. Kareem came third with an interesting spelling of it. Leo came fourth. And Aaron Bannister came fifth. So there you go. Kalidou Koulibaly. Congratulations to Ross and to Devin for winning today's Guess the Gooner and Guess the Non-Gooner. No, Aaron, on my screen, so basically, Aaron, what happens is everyone types an answer, especially when it's an easy one, everyone types an answer at the same time, and on your screen, your name will come up first because it takes longer to process the other comments, whereas I get all of the comments in the actual order that people did them. And it was Devin. It was Devin. One more. No more. No more, unfortunately. Look, there's 5 minutes left of the live stream before I have to jump off. Get your questions in. Get your questions in. What do people think of the James Maddison transfer, by the way? I think Tottenham have been crying out for a creative midfielder for forever, almost. So I think it's a good signing in that sense. Obviously, it's funny seeing all of those tweets that he'd put out before about how much he hated Spurs. How did we get the non-gooner but not the gooner? I mean, to be fair, the guess the non-gooner was a lot easier than the guess the gooner. That was one thing I wanted to talk about, right? Today, it's been grinding my gears. So a graphic came out that a Man City fan had made of Premier League clubs' net spend over the last 5 years, up to and including yesterday, and within it they included the Declan Rice deal, which actually hasn't even officially gone through yet. And it meant that specific, really well-crafted graph had Arsenal at the top of the net spend thing. And I tried making the point on Twitter that net spend over 5 years is a completely pointless thing to measure. If you don't include the context of what happened before those 5 years, it's completely pointless even considering it, right? And before Arsenal had spent a lot of money, I'd already made a video months ago about the fact that net spend is pointless. Measuring net spend over 5 years, 4 years, 6 years is absolutely pointless. Because it doesn't include what happened before that. And what happened before that directly impacts what the net spend is because it's based on your sales. And your sales are generally based on how much you've spent before that. And so it's a completely pointless thing to measure when you could literally quite easily just measure how much gross total did you spend on the current squad. And I felt like on Twitter I was bashing my head against a brick wall with some absolute morons. Genuinely the most moronic group of people who were like, no, you're just spending a lot of money now. It doesn't matter. You're spending a lot of money now. It's like, well, hang on. Firstly, you're including Declan Rice, who we've not even bought yet. Secondly, doing it 2 weeks into a transfer window when we've done all of our buying and other clubs are doing their selling obviously makes a massive difference. And thirdly, the idea that it makes no difference what you spent before that 5 year period as to how that affects your net spend is completely and utterly mental. So that was really annoying me. It'd be like, this is the best analogy I can think of, right? Imagine you and your mate John. 6 years ago, you're both working a job, you get paid the same amount, you both rent a flat, different flats, but you both rent a flat, and John wins the lottery, right? He wins 3 million quid. And with that 3 million quid, he buys a mansion. He buys a £3 million mansion. He carries on doing his job, so he's still in the same job as you, but he's got a £3 million mansion and he's living in it. And over the next 6 years, you keep working away, and eventually you've saved up enough for a house. So you can buy a £400,000 house, and you buy your £400,000 house 6 years after he bought his £3 million mansion. In that time, John has spent 50 grand on his mansion, on upgrading things, fixing things that got broken. He installed a pool, because why not? And that's where you're at. So he's got his mansion with, pretty much pristine condition because he's paid a bit of money to keep it at the level it was at when he bought it, and he's got a pool. You've spent 400 grand on a house. You're very happy with it. You've worked really hard for this house, right? And you have a housewarming, and all of your friends, John's friends, they all come around for the housewarming. They've all been at John's loads because he's got a pool. They absolutely love the mansion, right? And they come to your house, and they look around, and you're proud of your house, your £400,000 house. They're all looking around, and they're like, well, this is shit. What? This is awful. Your net spend in the last 5 years is 400 grand, and you've only got this. And John's net spend in the last 5 years is 50 grand, and he's got that mansion. You're a loser. What are you doing? It makes no sense. Because John spent 3 million quid on a mansion before that, and all he's had to do is sustain the mansion for the last 5 years. I had to go out and buy my house. It's unfathomably stupid. So anyway, that's been annoying me today. Hi Rory, love your content. I'm here from Twitter. Love from India. Love to India. Purran. Love to India. Do you think Chelsea are doing something dodgy? How have they managed to convince Arsenal and United that Mount and Havertz are worth 60 and 65 million? To be honest, I honestly do think that Havertz and Mount could be worth that much money. I don't think it's anything dodgy. Why would, if they'd sold them to Saudi or the French club Strasbourg that they've just brought, if they'd done that, I'd start questioning it. But there's no way that Man United and Arsenal are involved in helping out Chelsea. I just genuinely think Arsenal value Kai Havertz at 65 million, or it's 50 million really, but they think that that's a good burn John's house down. Yeah, absolutely. But they think that that's a good value, and I think Man U think that Mason Mount's good value. I don't think there's anything sinister in it. I really don't. But anyway, that is going to be the end of today's live stream. I'm sorry it's a bit shorter than usual, but I've got to go out to some show that I'm getting dragged along to. I hope you have a fantastic evening. If you want to watch today's news, I uploaded an 8-minute video earlier on covering all of today's news, including Nwaneri, Declan Rice, all the rest of it. Please do subscribe before you leave. That massively helps me out. But other than that, have a great evening, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Goodbye.